Brett Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise in opposition to this Land Transfer Foreign Ownership of Land Register Amendment Bill in this its first reading. The fundamental basis of opposition for this, Mr Speaker, is that this is a piece of legislation that is simply unnecessary. I mean, we should always permit the facts to get in the way of a story, whether that story is a good one or a bad one, in this case a bad one. Because the reality is, Mr Speaker, that since this government announced a tightening of the rules around foreign or non-tax residents purchasing property, particularly investment property in New Zealand, well over a year or so ago now, we've been collecting data on the extent to which that actually happens. So the extent to which people who are foreigners who are not paying tax in New Zealand, not tax resident, are actually purchasing and buying up New Zealand properties. And the sum total, if you will, the percentage of the extent of that issue is 3%. And that now spans multiple quarters of data. And there is a great deal of consistency across the information that has been collected. It's not that one quarter was 3%, Mr Speaker, it's that now we're seeing a trend, a very clear, consistent line there. So why would we put in place this register for something that simply is not a great problem? It would add compliance time cost for no significant benefit. We have the measures already through the tightening that we did, where if non-tax residents are purchasing our property, our investment properties, they will be taxed accordingly. And that in itself will mean one of two things. Either it could put a brake on the scale and rapidity or size of those transactions, or where it doesn't, it makes sure that we're collecting appropriate tax revenue from that. But this bill simply doesn't fix a problem. It does something. I'm not denying that, Mr Speaker. It certainly does something. It certainly creates a register, but the register doesn't address a problem and provides no solution, indeed, for that problem that doesn't actually exist. And it misses a very clear distinction, which I alluded to earlier there, is that individuals can have a nationality and country of tax residence that are different. In fact, an individual can have more than one country of tax residence. But if we look at what we might want to achieve, if we looked at a policy of ensuring that there wasn't just wholesale buying up of our land and property, what we're really trying to achieve, I would suggest, Mr Speaker, is a situation where people that have no personal investment, if you will, in our country might try to buy it off us or take it off us. But a tax resident is effectively invested in our country. By paying tax, they are helping to provide the infrastructure that the country provides. They're helping to pay for our schools and our hospitals. They are actually contributing to the economic well-being of the nation. Why on earth would we, as a policy, certainly here, why on earth would we look to penalise or prevent those people transacting in a business that they are helping, in a country, that they are actually helping to fund? It seems that there is a misplaced targeting here. Certainly on this side of the House, we've got no issue with people that might be considered foreign. In fact, the diversity of New Zealand is one of its greatest strengths. So rather than simply looking at the way someone appears or the sound of their surname, Mr Speaker, we actually believe that where one is contributing to New Zealand, and the best measure of that for someone who wasn't born or doesn't have permanent residence perhaps, is their tax status. So where someone is contributing to this country, why on earth would we want to take some backward position of 40 or more years ago, when a certain member first entered this place, and say, look, you're not allowed to participate in our country and in our economy. You're somehow to be treated differently. You're somehow to be treated as a second-rate person in this country. It simply isn't necessary, Mr Speaker. And for that reason, and that I believe is a very, very good reason, I do not commend this bill to the House.